The lost recipe. Leo had never baked a cake before. It wasn't that he hated baking. He just never thought about it. Baking was for grandmothers and TV chefs, not for a 34-year-old man who could barely make toast without burning it. But today, he was standing in the middle of his tiny kitchen, staring at a bag of flour like it was a puzzle he had no idea how to solve. The reason: his grandmother's birthday. She had always been the one baking for him: cookies, pies, warm bread on cold mornings. But now, she was older, and her hands weren't as steady. This year, for the first time, she had asked him to make her favorite cake, lemon sponge with vanilla frosting. Leo had laughed at first. Me? Bake? Grandma, you must be joking. She wasn't. Now, with the recipe in one hand and a growing sense of panic in the other, he sighed. All right, let's do this. Step 1. Measure the ingredients. Leo opened the bag of flour too fast. A white cloud exploded into the air, covering his black t-shirt. He groaned. Great start. Step 2. Crack the eggs. The first egg landed perfectly in the bowl. The second slipped from his fingers and crashed onto the counter. He stared at the mess. I should have just bought a cake. Step 3. Mix everything together. The kitchen was a disaster. Flour on the floor, sugar in his hair, batter on his cheek. But when he poured the mixture into the cake pan and slid it into the oven, something strange happened. He felt proud. Maybe it wasn't perfect. Maybe it would taste awful. But he had tried, and for the first time in a long time, he felt excited to see what would happen next. As the cake baked, filling the kitchen with a warm, lemony smell, Leo realized something. Sometimes, trying is more important than succeeding. Maybe life was like baking. Messy, unpredictable, full of mistakes. But if you never tried, you'd never know what you were capable of. He smiled. This was just the beginning. Leo sat at the kitchen table, watching the oven like a detective watching a suspect. The cake was rising, golden at the edges, the smell filling the tiny apartment. For a moment, he felt something he hadn't expected: excitement. Maybe this wouldn't be a disaster after all. The timer beeped. Leo grabbed an oven mitt, took a deep breath, and pulled the cake out. It looked decent, maybe even good. He tapped the top gently. It bounced back. That was a good sign, right? All right, he muttered. Time for the frosting. He had bought a tub of vanilla frosting from the store. His grandmother would have made it from scratch, of course, but he wasn't ready for that level of commitment. He opened the lid and grabbed a knife to spread it. That's when things went wrong. The cake was still warm, too warm, and as he spread the frosting, it melted, turning into a sticky mess. The top of the cake started peeling off, mixing with the frosting like a sad, sweet disaster. No, 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 Leo groaned, trying to fix it, but every move made it worse. By the time he was done, the cake looked like a 5-year-old had attacked it with a spoon. Leo sat back and sighed. So much for baking. But then, he thought about his grandmother. She wouldn't care how the cake looked. She wouldn't care if it was perfect. She would laugh, take a bite, and say, "At least you tried, my boy." And wasn't that the point? Leo looked at the cake again. It might not win any awards, but it was his cake, his effort, his mess. And maybe, just maybe, it would still taste good. With a shrug, he grabbed a plate and carefully cut a slice. He took a bite. It was surprisingly okay. Not perfect. Not like Grandma's, but okay. Leo grinned. Maybe life didn't have to be perfect to be sweet. Leo placed the cake into a box, carefully covering it like it was a fragile piece of art. He knew it wasn't pretty, but at least it smelled good. He grabbed his keys and headed to his grandmother's house. As he walked through her front door, she was already waiting in the living room, wrapped in a soft blanket, her gray hair neatly brushed. Her eyes sparkled when she saw him. "You brought it?" she asked, smiling. Leo held up the box. "I did. But don't get too excited." She chuckled. "Oh, I'm already excited." They moved to the kitchen, and Leo placed the cake on the table. He hesitated before opening the lid. "Just so you know," he said, "this won't look like the cakes you used to make." She gave him a knowing look. "And why should it? It's your cake, not mine." Leo slowly lifted the lid. Silence. His grandmother stared at the cake for a long moment. Then, to his surprise, she threw her head back and laughed. "Oh, Leo," she said between giggles, "it looks like it fought a battle and lost." Leo groaned. "I told you." Still smiling, she picked up a knife and cut a small slice. She lifted it carefully to her mouth, took a bite, and chewed slowly. Leo held his breath. Then she smiled. "It's good." He frowned. "You're just saying that." She shook her head. "No, really. The texture is nice. The flavor is there. Maybe the frosting is a bit dramatic." Leo snorted. "Dramatic? It looks like it's trying to escape the cake." He laughed, finally letting go of his nerves. Then his grandmother reached across the table and patted his hand. "You did something new today. You tried. That's all that matters." Leo looked at the messy cake and then at his grandmother. For the first time, he realized this wasn't just about baking. It was about stepping out of his comfort zone, about taking a risk, making mistakes and laughing at them. Maybe this wasn't the last cake he'd ever bake. Maybe it was just the first. Leo sat back in his chair, watching his grandmother enjoy another bite of his not-so-perfect cake. It was strange. He had been so nervous to bring it here, but now he felt proud. "You know," his grandmother said, wiping a crumb from her lips, "this reminds me of the first cake I ever made." Leo raised an eyebrow. "Wait, you messed up a cake before." She chuckled. "Oh, worse than you?" She leaned back in her chair, eyes twinkling with memory. "I was 16. My mother asked me to make a chocolate cake for a family dinner. I was so excited. I wanted it to be perfect. Leo smirked. Let me guess. Something went wrong. She nodded. I mixed up the sugar and the salt. Leo winced. Yikes. The cake was so salty. Your great-grandfather spat it out in front of everyone. She laughed. I was mortified. I ran to my room and cried for hours. Leo tilted his head. But you didn't stop baking. No, she said, shaking her head, because my mother told me something that day. Something I never forgot. Leo leaned in. What did she say? His grandmother smiled. She said, cooking, baking, life, it's all the same. The secret ingredient isn't perfection. It's love. If you put your heart into something, even if it's messy, it will always be special. Leo sat with that for a moment. He looked at his cake, crooked, messy, imperfect, but he had made it with care, thinking about his grandmother, wanting to do something for her. Maybe that was why it still tasted good. His grandmother nudged him. So, will you bake again? Leo laughed. I don't know about that, but deep down, he wasn't so sure anymore. A week later, Leo found himself back in his kitchen, staring at another bag of flour. This time, he wasn't panicking. After his grandmother's story, something had shifted inside him. He had spent years avoiding things he thought he would fail at, baking, painting, playing the guitar he had bought and never touched. He had convinced himself he wasn't one of those people who tried new things. But now he wasn't so sure. Maybe life wasn't about being good at everything. Maybe it was just about trying. Leo pulled out a fresh recipe, one his grandmother had handwritten for him before he left her house. A simple chocolate cake. No fancy layers, no complicated steps. Just a challenge. He followed each step carefully, laughing when a little flour puffed into the air again. He cracked the eggs without dropping them this time. He even made the frosting before taking the cake out of the oven. Lesson learned. When the cake was finally done, he spread the frosting smoothly over the top. It still wasn't perfect, but it looked much better than last time. Leo took a step back, arms crossed. It looked like a real cake. And for the first time in a long time, he felt like he had accomplished something small but important. Just then, his phone buzzed. A message from his grandmother. Baking again? Leo smirked and sent a photo of his cake. A minute later, she replied, Now you're getting it. The next one will be even better. He chuckled. Maybe she was right. Maybe this was just the beginning. The next Sunday, Leo carried his second cake to his grandmother's house. This time, he wasn't nervous. He wasn't expecting perfection. He just wanted to share something he had made. His grandmother opened the door with a warm smile. Back again. Should I be worried that you're turning into a baker? Leo grinned. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. They sat in the kitchen, and Leo carefully cut 2 slices. The cake was soft, the frosting smooth. His grandmother took a bite, closed her eyes, and nodded. Much better, she said. You're learning. Leo leaned back, feeling something new. Confidence. Not just in baking, but in himself. "So, what's next?" his grandmother asked. Leo thought about it. Maybe another cake. Maybe something else. "I don't know. But I think I want to keep trying new things." His grandmother smiled. That's the spirit. Leo realized this had never been about baking. It had been about stepping outside of his comfort zone, about letting go of fear. For the first time in years, he felt excited for what was next. Because now he understood. Life is like baking. Messy, unpredictable, full of mistakes. But if you put your heart into it, it will always be worth it. And that was the best recipe of all.